Hi everybody, hope you're keeping safe and well. Just checking in to see how you're all doing and let you know how I'm doing, if you're bothered. Taking it day by day, feeling a little bit stronger, trying not to beat myself up if I do have a wobbly day. I have been thinking a lot recently in terms of, I thought what was going on was all physical, and it still might be. I'm still having blood tests and some have come back with a little bit of abnormalities in my hormones and my red blood cells, but there's nothing glaringly obvious, which made me think, oh, maybe I'm just struggling up there, and that's all right. That's absolutely fine. And I was also thinking, where did it come from? It's literally come out of nowhere. Like it just feels like, whether it be burnout or whatever it is, something's just went and knocked me sideways. And that's no different to like coming out of nowhere when it's physical, is it really? Like, you don't sort of like, more often than not, if you get earache or a toothache or, you know, some other ailment, more often than not comes out of nowhere, unless it's obviously something that you have physically done to hair, like get hair, like fallen over. Of course you're gonna sort of feel the bruise and the throb, but more often than not, like when something happens, you don't ask for it to happen, it just happens. So I guess I'm saying, I'm trying to normalize this conversation by going, yes, it's probably more mentally that I'm struggling at the moment than it is physically, and that's okay, because they're both equally as important as each other. That's number one. Number two, I get a lot of DMs and I hold my hands up and say I can't read all of them or open all of them. You know, obviously my role as CEO of Seed, like that's like full time, and then when my acting comes, I kind of fit that around it, or whatever I'm doing at that point, radio, public speaking, whatever. But that doesn't mean to say that I don't really care about you all. But there was one DM that I opened, and it was by accident. I'd actually dropped my phone, picking it back up. I'd opened this DM because I was looking at my Instagram, as we all do. And what I read was really interesting, and I thought I'd do a video about it because actually it might resonate with a lot of people. I was asked by somebody, and I think they'll know that person is if they're watching this, but obviously I want to keep that confidential. But that person said that they were struggling with OSFED, which is other specified feeding and eating disorders. So OSFED means when there's no one box ticking all. Like, the person with the disordered eating or eating disorder, they're not anorexic, they're not bulimic, they're not struggling with binge eating disorder, they're not, it's a mix of everything. And it's a very complex eating disorder to one, diagnose, but to treat. And actually OSFED is probably one of the most common eating disorders that present themselves in people. And this person was struggling with OSFED, and she was going through the therapy, and the one thing that she kept hearing from people was that she needs to go back to the root cause of the problem before she can start to get better. But bless her, what she said was, I can't remember, I can barely remember primary school, let alone anything else. And it did strike me that this is something that people do battle with. And yes, we do need to look at root causes, and I talk about this a lot, but equally, if you can't remember, don't beat yourself up. One thing that I've learned is that, and to be very mindful of, is when you are going through an eating disorder, there will be moments where you know, physically you're not able to retain those memories or that information, you know, especially when it comes to low weight. You know, it's very difficult for the brain to function if that's something that you're presenting. But equally, going through an eating disorder is traumatic, and your brain's not going to retain all of that information. So when it goes back to sort of looking at the root cause of the problem, but you can't remember or you don't want to remember those things, it can become very frustrating and very tricky. I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's different for different people, and that there is not one way of the recovery journey for any one person. There might be some people who can remember everything and do know that pivotal moment when everything, you know, changed. But like me, like I remember that moment where I first said to my dad, "Dad, am I fat?" I remember it vividly, and those words came out of nowhere. But do I remember the point in the playground, or the point, you know, in my youth where that was going to happen? No, of course I don't. But as you go through the therapy journey and the recovery journey, whatever that looks like for you, and whatever treatment you're getting or support you're getting, and whether that be with us at Seed or wherever, there will come breakthrough moments where you remember something. And remembering something can be hard, but it can also be a revelation. The other thing she asked me was, is recovery possible? Yes, it is. And what does recovery look like? It looks different for different people. Now, for me, what I'm going through at the moment mentally, and just sort of struggling with my fatigue and my mood, I am dealing with that in a really hands-on way. I'm not going back to eating disorder world and whatever you want to call it. I am on the phone with my doctor. I am having tests. I am acknowledging and being self-aware and booking a train to go home to Hull and see my mum and dad. I am being accountable. So for me, that part of my recovery journey is immense, because I've got tools that I need to be able to stay safe. For some people, if they are lucky enough to get the treatment that they need early enough, the right treatment, you know, because sadly not all treatment is the right treatment, and that's another video for another day, like what's the right treatment. But if they're lucky enough to sort of get that match and get that support that they need, and it works for them, recovery can absolutely be possible. Nothing ever enters their world again where there's any thought process around disordered eating or an eating disorder. But the likelihood is, and the reality is, that more often than not, the eating disorder will be part of that person. For me, I wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't have gone through that. Now, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. I wouldn't. But that made me who I am. So I've said this before in videos, so sorry if I'm repeating myself, but the way I kind of explain it is that eating disorder's in the back pocket, right? And every now and again, when there's a little trigger or there's a bump in the road or something's not quite working out, eating disorder will go, "Hey babe, remember me?" And I'll go, "Yes I do." Oh. And just acknowledge it, tell it where to go, and put it back in its little pocket. Because then it's part of me, but I know where it is and I can deal with it. I don't know if that's helped. Just trying to help you while I'm helping me, I guess. As I always say, it's a two-way thing. You're all awesome, and I'm very, very grateful. All right, sending lots of love. You matter.